I've signed myself up for 96 courses. Why are there 96? We started with 32, then we went to 48, then we went to 96. I'm gonna be here a while, aren't I? Ugh. I'm in for the long haul. Let's do it. So have you ever wondered about the climate in Mario Kart? No? I bet you have now that I said that, though. Since Mario Kart World officially released not too long ago, I figured it was appropriate to give Mario Kart 8 the send-off it deserves by doing what I do best, discussing the weather and the climate. This game has a lot of different climates in it. There's not much weather to be found, really none at all, except like maybe 2 courses. I think there's like 2. However, there are several different climate types among all the 96 courses in the game. Perhaps it's time I define this thing we call climate, since I do talk about it quite a bit. The official definition of climate is the long-term pattern of temperature and precipitation averages and extremes at a location. There are several different climate classifications we have. These all come together in the Köppen classification system, originated by Vladimir Köppen himself in 1884. Seriously, we name everything after scientists in this field, especially if they're the founder of something. I'm starting to wonder if this is society's way of training me to say really tough last names that aren't my own. It's not working, for the record. I still mess up people's last names, though I always try to get them right. Anyways, what exactly is the climate in Mario Kart 8? Great question! It's rather varied, though I'd argue some locations have similar enough climates. Today, I'm taking on the challenge of going through all 96 courses in this game and classifying each of them into one of the boxes in the Köppen system. Am I truly up for the challenge? Well, let's find out together. So what's the plan of attack? We have 96 courses to go through! Well, the good news is that we can immediately eliminate 2 types of courses from this analysis. Any course that takes place entirely indoors, and those that take place in outer space. Last I checked, indoor areas like a bathroom don't have a climate created by an Earth-like atmosphere, and neither does outer space. This takes out several courses immediately. Courses that are entirely indoors consist of Electrodrome, 3DS Music Park, DS Tic-Tac Clock, GBA Ribbon Road, Super Bell Subway, DS Waluigi Pinball, and Squeaky Clean Sprint. Sadly, no bath time for us. I wish. Courses that take place in outer space are Rainbow Road, N64 Rainbow Road, SNES Rainbow Road, 3DS Rainbow Road, and Wii Rainbow Road. Jeez, this game has a lot of Rainbow Roads in it now. Anyways, none of these courses have outdoor components to them, either that or they don't take place on an Earth-like planet and thus can't be analyzed for their climate type. What about courses that take place mostly indoors but have outdoor components? I'm talking about courses like Twisted Mansion and Piranha Plant Slide. I'm going to try to give them a classification based on their outdoor sections, but I can make no guarantees that I can actually classify any of these courses properly, but especially those ones. It truly depends on how much information I can garner. With that being said, let's get right into it, shall we? We have 84 courses remaining and several possible climate classifications we can assign them. This is going to take forever! Fear not, I have a plan. The Köppen classification system may have many total classifications, with the total number varying depending on what sources you look at, but these have a rhyme or reason to them. You're going to have to forgive me, this may be a little more complex than usual. Not because the concept itself is hard, but because there are a lot of climate classifications, each of which is based on average temperatures and precipitation amounts. While I can't tell you exact values of these things, based on the surrounding environment in each course, I'm going to give them my best guess, and a fair shake for each climate classification. Before we go too far, let's make one thing clear. For the Mario Kart tour tracks that take place in a city, these have a climate classification in the real world. Those are the labels I'll use for those cities. The rest is pure speculation. Let's get right into it. The first category is very originally named. It's A! It's a great letter! The letter A! The first category A is the classification given for any territory that is in a tropical region. What's a tropical region for climate's sake? This is a place where the average monthly temperature is at least 64 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius, or greater than that. Under A, we have classifications AF, AM, and AW. AF is the equatorial rainforest climate, where there is no dry season, and even the driest month has at least 2.36 inches of rain, or 60 millimeters. Courses that would likely fall into this category are Dolphin Shoals, DS Cheap Cheap Beach, 3DS DK Jungle, Wildwoods, GBA Riverside Park, Tour Singapore Speedway, Wee Koopa Cape, and Piranha Plant Cove. All of these areas have beautiful plant life and plenty of lush environments to spare. While we're not driving around in the rain on any of these courses, Hey, just because it's a tropical climate doesn't mean it rains all the time every day. We know it rains here at least somewhat frequently given how green everything is, not to mention how many water features are in these places. Seriously, these courses have water everywhere. Some of them because they're literally beaches, others have rivers flowing through them, and so on. These areas are wet and tropical, hence earning the AF classification in my book. The next classification under tropical is AM, or the equatorial monsoon. This is usually given to areas that decidedly have a wet season and a short dry season. Basically, in this box, 1 or more months must have less than 2.36 inches of precipitation. Courses that would likely fall into this category are Swamp Ruins, Shy Guy Falls, Sunshine Airport, GCN Daisy Cruiser, and DK Mountain. These areas still have water features and beautiful scenery, but they seem to be a bit drier than the other courses mentioned beforehand. I see a lot more dirt paths on Swamp Ruins and Shy Guy Falls, for example. Not to mention that I did an entire video on Mario Sunshine and how it has a wet and a dry season. And if Sunshine Airport is in Isle Delfino, which I suspect it is, then I'd argue it's this climate classification as well. I also placed Daisy Cruiser in this box because it's a cruise ship and they tend to travel to tropical islands. I think it'd be in this type of climate most of the time. The last tropical climate classification is AW, or the equatorial savanna. This is where there are more than 2 months with precipitation being less than 2.36 inches. Courses in this category include Tour, Bangkok Rush, and that's it. Seriously, it's only Bangkok. Well, that was anticlimactic. I don't think I need to explain that one too much, but if you really need me to, well, it's just simply less wet than everywhere else. I guess we're moving on to the next letter. The next category is the next best letter of the alphabet, B. I'm not kidding, we use letters for this stuff. We usually use B for desert and semi-arid climates. This category is special because it has more than one capital letter, as well as a lowercase letter. Category B is either followed by a capital W or S with a lowercase k or h. BW, in general, means evaporation exceeds precipitation on average, but the resulting precipitation amounts to less than half of potential evaporation. What the heck does that mean in English? In simpler terms, we're going to get significantly less precipitation even if we have great amounts of evaporation in these regions. Now, for BS climates, we tend to use this when evaporation exceeds precipitation on average, but said precipitation occurs a bit more frequently than it would in a BW climate. Within these two categories, BWBS, where do K and H fall into this though? If the average temperature is less than 64 degrees Fahrenheit, or once again 18 Celsius, we use K to signify this. If the average temperature is greater than 64 degrees, then we use H. As a result, our climate classifications for B are BWK, BWH, BSK, and BSH. For our Mario Kart courses, this is going to be a tad more difficult to pin down. It truly depends on how much precipitation these places get, which is hard to tell just by looking at them. That hasn't stopped me before though, so let's talk about this. Starting with BWK, I'd place Mute City, Big Blue, and Wee Wario's Gold Mine into this category. These areas are exceptionally dry, with no water in sight, but the temperatures of these places will likely fluctuate to the point where their averages would be below that 64-degree threshold. I don't see any of these courses having an average higher than the 60s. While I will note that Big Blue in particular does have a water stream, I suspect this is artificially created rather than coming from some natural source, hence why I'm still classifying it here. I don't see there being much precipitation forming in these courses. For BWH, I would place a lot of your desert courses in this category, like GCN Dry Desert, Wee Grumble Volcano, Bone Dry Dunes, GBA Cheeseland, Bowser's Castle, SNES Mario Circuit 3, Calamari Desert, GBA Sunset Wilds, and SNES Bowser Castle 3 in this category. All of these courses are extremely dry and have little chance of rain occurring in them for more than a few times a year. Not to mention that the temperatures most certainly are exceeding 64 degrees daily and likely have an average above that as well. I'd be more surprised if the temperature didn't average out to be higher than 64 degrees in these places. I guess this makes sense, usually places on Earth that have this classification are normal deserts. And so are most of these courses. I think it checks out. For our next category, I'd place Dragon Driftway, DS Wario Stadium, and parts of Tour Los Angeles Laps in BSH. Why? Well, I suspect we get some precipitation, though very little of it in comparison to evaporation. Temperatures are also likely to exceed 64 degrees on average. It can't just be me, these places look like they'd be warm. I'm not saying it's a sauna or anything like that, but it looks like it'd be a nice place to go visit. Don't worry, I'll go into LA's situation a little bit more later. It is a bit more complicated than I'm leading you to believe right now. We'll get into it, I promise. For BSK, these courses would definitely be dry, but a lot cooler. Sweet Sweet Canyon, N64 Choco Mountain, Tour Madrid Drive are the courses I would select. Look, I'm not saying we're getting a lot of precipitation at these courses either. We're likely not. The courses don't have a lot of moisture anywhere. Heck, Choco Mountain is made out of literal chocolate. Warm temperatures and precipitation will cause it to melt. So it kind of has to be dry for it to exist as a course. It's a similar story with Sweet Sweet Canyon, hence why I'm placing them in this category. Alright, if you thought I was getting a little too into it with category B, you haven't seen anything yet. The third category is C. Perhaps you're starting to notice the pattern? Anyways, for the general category C, the temperature of the warmest month must be greater than or equal to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10 degrees Celsius, and the temperature of the coldest month must be less than 64 degrees Fahrenheit, remember 18 degrees Celsius, but greater than 26.6 degrees Fahrenheit, or -3 Celsius. Now we're starting to get into the mid-latitude courses, where many of our Mario Kart Tour courses will be ranked, and a few others, of course. Following a capital C are two lowercase letters, the first lowercase letter being S, W, or F, and the second lowercase letter being A, B, or C. For us to follow a capital C with an S, there must be at least 3 times as much precipitation during the wettest winter months as there is during the driest summer months. If we want to use W instead, the winter season must be extremely dry compared to the summer. For us to be able to use F, neither S or W can be true. In simpler terms, we use an F after a capital C when precipitation is more evenly distributed throughout the year rather than being as specific as C, S, and CW are. Now from here, we have to decide if A, B, or C is the lowercase letter that follows capital C and S, W, or F. How are we going to do that? Well, we look at the temperatures. If the average temperature of the warmest month is 72 degrees Fahrenheit or 22 Celsius or higher, we use A. If the temperature of the 4 warmest months is at least 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 Celsius, or warmer, but the average temperature of the warmest month is less than 72 Fahrenheit, or 22 degrees Celsius, we use B. If the average temperature of 1 to 3 months is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10 degrees Celsius, or warmer, but the average temperature of the warmest month is less than 72 degrees Fahrenheit, or 22 Celsius, then we classify it as C. There is one more letter we could potentially use here, and it's D. We don't actually use D for capital C climates, but it'll come up later, so I'm going to define it now real quick. Now, if the average temperature of the coldest month is less than 26.6 degrees Fahrenheit or -3 Celsius, we'll classify it as lowercase d. Given all of that, what courses are falling into this category? Now you're asking the tough questions. Let's start off with our CSA courses: Tour Athens Dash, Tour LA Laps, and Tour Roma Avanti. Yes, literally all courses in the real world. These areas all have warm average annual temperatures and great precipitation during their winters. There's a reason why tour season in these places tends to be in the summer rather than the winter. Now, I mentioned LA Laps was a little bit complicated. LA Laps, because of how big it is, actually falls in 3 different climate categories. I've mentioned 2 of them already. The final climate classification where LA falls is within the CSB category, alongside Toad Harbor, GC and Baby Park, Yoshi's Island, and Wee Daisy Circuit. I suspect these courses would have summers that are cooler and drier, with temperatures not exceeding the magic number of 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I also suspect the greatest precipitation would be occurring during the winter season. That's ultimately the reason I put Baby Park in this category, honestly. A theme park is usually open during the summer season, and sometimes, depending on the park, open during winter months as well. It could be forced to close due to inclement weather, however. I suspect it would be in a climate like this since it would allow for many days of operation during the peak season. The next category has a whole 1 course in it, and I'll explain why. I placed N64 Yoshi Valley in CWA. Why that course and that one alone? Well, we commonly see CWA climates in low-lying plains, and Yoshi Valley, being a valley, is quite literally the only course that isn't such a plain. This course would likely have mild temperatures with average rainfall. Winters would likely be dry, but the valley would be nice and hot during the summer months. Now, remember when I said many of the Mario Kart Tour courses would end up in the C category? Yeah, that's because a lot of them are in CF climates. Courses in the CFA category will likely include Water Park, 3DS Piranha Plant Slide, 3DS Neo Bowser City, Tour Tokyo Blur, Ninja Hideaway, parts of New York Minute, and Tour Sydney Sprint. These areas tend to have higher annual average temperatures, with precipitation occurring year-round, but definitely variable. Some months may be wetter than others, but overall precipitation will occur throughout the entire year. The rest of our Mario Kart Tour courses are in the CFB category. These courses will have cooler average annual temperatures, but 4 months will have temperatures of 50 degrees Fahrenheit on average with year-round precipitation. These courses are Mario Circuit, Cloud Top Cruise, GBA Mario Circuit, N64 Royal Raceway, Hyrule Circuit, Tour Paris Promenade, GBA Sky Garden, Tour London Loop, Tour Berlin Byways, Tour Amsterdam Drift, Tour Vancouver Velocity, DS Peach Gardens, and DS Mario Circuit. These areas have enough greenery that I'm convinced they would have year-round precipitation. And let's be real, these places would totally have temperatures around 50 degrees as an average for the entire year. The last category for C, CFC, only has 2 courses in it. SNES Donut Plains 3 and GCN Yoshi Circuit. I suspect these 2 courses would fall in this category since they seem to have precipitation year-round, given the amount of greenery present and the general overall conditions. I also get the sense the greatest temperature at this place would be around 50 degrees, with the average greatest temperature barely not crossing 72. I don't know, I get some chills looking at some of these places. It can't just be me, right? You might be bracing yourself for category D. How many letters is this one going to have? I have good news for you! We use this category when the average temperature of the warmest month is greater than or equal to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average temperature of the coldest month is around 26.6 degrees Fahrenheit or -3 Celsius or lower. Luckily for us, we use the exact same naming conventions for this category as we do for category C. Yep, I'm not kidding. There may be no DS category, but there are DW and DF categories with the associated letters of lowercase a through D, so let's get right into the ranking. A place that's DWA is usually quite humid with an extremely dry winter and a very hot summer. I'd place Excite Bike Arena and Coconut Mall in this category. Why? Well, for Excite Bike, I feel like the stadiums are always in areas where there are hot summers and dry winters. I know that's not necessarily true, but honestly, I get warm just looking at Excite Bike. As for Coconut Mall, it's so nice and dry here that I can't imagine this place having a cool summer. My personal theory for this one is that people come to the mall because it has air conditioning and it's a nice escape from the heat during those dreadful summers. That's just me though. For a DWB climate, areas are usually more humid with a severe dry winter and a warm summer. Some courses that would likely fall into this category are Wee Moo Moo Meadows and 3DS Toad Circuit. I could see these places being completely dry in the winter, but humid and warm during the summer, but not as hot as DWA climate would be. It can't just be me thinking that the cows look a little bit uncomfortable, right? Don't worry, cows, I always will respect you. For a climate to be DWC, it has to be a severe dry winter with a cooler summer. I'm thinking Twisted Mansion would fall into this category. I don't get the sense that temperatures climb very high here over the summer, even when it is daytime, if it ever is in this place. I could see this place having a very dry winter with a cooler summer. Similarly, for a category to be DWD, winters are usually very cold and dry with a very cool summer. I suspect the only course to get this could also be Twisted Mansion. I just don't see any other course falling into this category, at least not the way it is now. Maybe that's just me though. The rest of these courses that fall into D will be categorized as DF courses. A climate is DFA if the general climate is humid, especially over the summer and when the summers are nice and hot. I suspect Mario Kart Stadium, N64 Toads Turnpike, Wii Moonview Highway, and parts of New York Minute would fit in this category. Yes, New York City also has multiple climates in it. Only 2 for them though, not any more than that. I guess it's what you get when your city is essentially a peninsula that spans for several miles though. Anyways, I suspect these places are humid given where they may stand in the real world. While these places don't seem to have anything to suggest their humidity is high, I have a theory here. So many states in the Midwestern United States are also DFA. Should they be that given that they're landlocked? It's possible that they wouldn't be this way, but a lot of Midwestern states grow a ton of corn. They grow so much of it, in fact, that it has the power to change the humidity of an entire state. States like Indiana and Illinois are extremely humid, especially over the summer, because of the amount of corn grown in each state. These states also have some serious highways crossing through them too. Similarly, I suspect the highway courses may also be this way. Now, moving on to our DFB courses. They're usually humid with a severe winter, cooler summers, and likely no dry season. In this category, I'm thinking Animal Crossing, DS Shroom Ridge, Wii Mushroom Gorge, GBA Boo Lake, and GCN Waluigi Stadium would go here. I suspect all of these places, if they were in the winter, would have some serious snow coverage and cooler temperatures, as well as summers being nice and cool compared to what we see in other locations. My personal theory here is that none of these places are going to be exceeding any ridiculously high temperatures, at least not to the point where their averages cross above the 72-degree threshold. I mean, come on, mushrooms grow in places where it's cooler and wet for Pete's sake. And for them to grow as big as they do in Mushroom Gorge, I just don't see it being that warm. The other courses don't seem like they'd be that much different either. For a climate to be DFC, these places are likely to experience a severe winter with a cool summer, as well as no dry season to be had. I can see this being the case for 3DS Rock Mountain and Wii Maple Treeway. These environments seem to be cooler over the summer and could experience some really cold temperatures as they head into the winter season. I don't suspect their average temperatures drop below that lovely 50-degree threshold all that often, but they may on occasion, hence why I'm putting it here. If we want to consider a climate to be DFD, it needs to be a very cold winter, a cool summer, and not have a dry season. Mount Wario and DK Summit fit this description. Temperatures here, on average, are likely averaging close to 26.6 Fahrenheit, if not exactly there. These places are decidedly cold during the winter for sure, not to mention that I suspect they get a lot of precipitation given the sheer amount of snow on the ground. I can see these places being a nice place to do winter activities for several months out of the year, even beyond winter. With that, we have finally made it to the last category, E! If a climate is to be labeled E, the temperature of the warmest month has to be less than 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. There are only two classifications in this category, ET and EF. ET, not the alien, but the climate classification, is used when the average temperatures of the warmest month is greater than 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, but less than 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 Celsius on average. So essentially, these areas can still break past freezing point. These climates are often polar tundras of some sort without a proper summer. Courses that I suspect are ET are GCN Sherbert Land, GBA Snowland, Merry Mountain, and Rosalina's Ice World. These areas have the potential to have temperatures go above freezing point as they are not completely covered in ice. There's ice on some parts of the course, sure, but they're not entirely frozen. I'm not constantly seeing glaciers, just whirling snow and some seriously cold temperatures. These places are certainly chilly, but not complete icy fortresses. The same cannot be said for EF climates. For these, the average temperature of the warmest month is 32 Fahrenheit, or 0 Celsius or below. Our best example of this in real life are several areas in Greenland and Antarctica. Our final two courses in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, plus the booster course pass, are in this category. Ice Ice Outpost and Sky High Sundae. For these tracks to maintain their ice, or well, ice cream, they have to be below freezing constantly. Temperatures being constantly above freezing would cause these places to start the melting process. I really don't see these courses ever going above freezing. If Ice Ice Outpost ever did, it would become more like Water Park. If Sky High Sundae experienced such things, well, it would be a bit of a sticky mess. Both places need the cold temperatures to remain as structured as they are, hence why I've classified them as EF. My friends, that is every single course in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, classified. Wow, that was a lot of them. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I have. If you thought this was cool and want to see more content like it, consider subscribing. I do have more on the way. Now, before I sign off, two things I gotta do. First things first, I have to thank Mega Cartman X for the amazing profile picture that he created for me. I am so incredibly grateful to him. If you want to see what he does, go check out his channel, it'll be linked below. Another thing I want to do is take a moment and reflect a bit. I've been playing Mario Kart 8 since it came out on the Wii U back in 2014. I've truly enjoyed every single minute I have spent with this game. While I'm really excited to play Mario Kart World for the first time, it is a little bit bittersweet to put this game down after so long. It's been such an important part of my life for so long. It got me through my teenage years, college, graduate school, the beginning of my adult life, you name it. I have so many fond memories playing this game with my sisters, my brother, my brother-in-law, my husband, and many other friends along the way. It's really been such a fun journey. Now, on to something new, but I shall not forget what came before. Thanks for everything, Mario Kart 8. You truly are one of the greatest of all time.